The quiet hum of Ethan Carter's laptop filled his small home office, a sanctuary of code and caffeine nestled in the heart of Willow Creek, a suburban enclave where every house wore the same beige siding and every lawn was trimmed to a precise 2.5 inches. Ethan, a wiry 32-year-old software developer with a mop of dark hair perpetually falling into his eyes, had moved here 6 months ago, lured by the promise of peace after years in the chaotic churn of city life. He worked from home, a job that suited his introverted nature but left him reliant on food delivery services more often than he cared to admit. What he hadn't anticipated was that his love for a good takeout meal would spark a neighborhood saga one that would end with handcuffs, a courtroom, and a woman named Margaret Hensley staring down the barrel of her own unraveling empire. It began innocently enough. After a marathon coding session that stretched across 3 sleepless nights, Ethan decided to reward himself with a feast from the Iron Grill, a local steakhouse renowned for its perfectly seared ribeyes. He placed the order $85 worth of steak, garlic mashed potatoes, and a slice of chocolate lava cake, tracking the driver's progress on his phone with the eagerness of a kid awaiting Christmas morning. The app pinged, delivered. A photo popped up showing his meal neatly arranged in front of a door painted a garish shade of coral. Ethan frowned. His door was slate gray. Grabbing his hoodie, he stepped outside into the crisp October evening, the scent of fallen leaves hanging in the air. 3 houses down, he recognized the coral door from the photo. It belonged to Margaret Hensley, the 63-year-old HOA president who ruled Willow Creek with the vigilance of a hawk circling prey. Her blonde hair, streaked with platinum highlights, was always sculpted into a bob so sharp it could have doubled as a guillotine blade. Ethan had met her once during his move-in, when she'd handed him a thick packet of community guidelines and warned him about parking his moving truck too close to the curb. Her smile then had been tight, her eyes glinting with a quiet menace. He rang her bell, the chime echoing like a summons. When she opened the door, the unmistakable aroma of his steak wafted out, teasing his empty stomach. "Hi, Margaret," he said, forcing a polite tone. "I think there's been a mix-up. My delivery got dropped off here by mistake." Margaret's expression didn't flicker. She stood framed in the doorway, arms crossed over a cream sweater, her lips painted a soft coral to match her door. "No mistake, Ethan," she replied, her voice dripping with saccharine calm. "The HOA has a policy against deliveries after 5:30 p.m. on weekdays. It's in the guidelines section 14.2, I believe. As president, it's my duty to enforce it." She tilted her head, offering a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Consider this a friendly heads-up." Ethan blinked, caught off guard. "But hat's my food. I paid for it. Can I just have it back?" Her smile widened, a predator baring teeth. "Oh, I've already disposed of it. Health and safety, you understand. You'll get a formal notice tomorrow. Welcome to Willow Creek." The door clicked shut before he could muster response, leaving him standing on her porch, $85 poorer and starving. Fuming, he ordered a pizza from a different app, scarfing it down while drafting an email to the HOA board. The next morning, a crisp envelope arrived in his mailbox, stamped with the Willow Creek HOA seal. It cited the alleged rule violation, but when Ethan cross-checked it against the bylaws he'd been given at closing, no such regulation existed. He fired off another email, attaching a scanned copy of the bylaws. The response was an automated, "We'll look into it." Nothing more. He might have let it go. $85 wasn't worth a vendetta, but Margaret wasn't done. Over the next month, she turned his deliveries into her personal crusade. She had an uncanny knack for intercepting drivers, appearing like a specter the moment tires rolled onto the cul-de-sac. One night, she told a Thai food courier Ethan had canceled his pad CEW. Another time, she claimed a sushi driver's idling car violated parking rules. Once, she even answered the door in a silk robe, pretending to be Ethan's mother, cooing, "Oh, my son's under the weather, leave it with me." By mid-November, Ethan had lost nearly $400 worth of meals to her sticky fingers. He installed a Ring doorbell camera, documenting each theft with grim satisfaction. The footage was damning. Margaret in gardening gloves, snatching a bag of Indian takeout. Margaret in a raincoat redirecting a burger delivery. Margaret with a phone to her ear, waving off a Chinese food driver like a traffic cop. He sent the clips to the HOA board and the property management company, but the responses were tepid. She's been president for 12 years. One board member whispered to him after a meeting, glancing nervously over his shoulder. Last summer, she had the Miller's pergola torn down because it was half an inch too tall. The year before, she fined the Kims until they ripped out their wildflower garden. She's untouchable. Ethan wasn't one for confrontation, but he was stubborn. If Margaret wanted a war, he'd fight it his way quietly, methodically, and with a programmer's precision. He devised a plan, one that would either end her reign or land him in deeper trouble. He placed an order from Le Chateau, the priciest restaurant in town, a French bistro where entrees started at $60. The bill totaled $632.19. A bottle of 2015 Chateau Margaux, Wagyu beef bourguignon, truffle risotto, and a trio of desserts so decadent they came with gold leaf garnish. It was absurd, but it was bait. He watched from his window as the delivery van rolled in, its sleek black exterior a stark contrast to Willow Creek's uniformity. Like clockwork, Margaret emerged, her coral door swinging open as she strode out in a tailored blazer, intercepting the driver before he reached Ethan's porch. The camera caught it all, her smooth explanation about HOA protocol, the driver's hesitant nod, the handover of bags that clinked with the promise of wine bottles. She disappeared inside, victorious. Ethan didn't storm over. Instead, he dialed the police non-emergency line, his voice steady. "I'd like to report a theft. My neighbor's been stealing my food deliveries for weeks. Today, she took an order worth over $600. I've got video proof." The dispatcher promised an officer within the hour. 30 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up, followed by a second. Lights flashed silently, painting the cul-de-sac in red and blue. Ethan watched from his window as two officers approached Margaret's house. She answered the door, her composure cracking as confusion gave way to outrage. He couldn't hear her words, but her wild gestures, arms flailing, finger jabbing, told the story. An officer approached Ethan's door next. "She says she's authorized as HOA president to confiscate deliveries," the officer said, his tone dry. "That true?" Ethan handed over his phone, showing the bylaws and a montage of doorbell footage. "No such rule exists. And that's $632 worth of food she took today. Here's the receipt." The officer's brow furrowed as he scrolled through the evidence, pausing at the clip of Margaret in her robe, snagging a pizza. "Wait here," he said, rejoining his partner. The conversation with Margaret grew heated, her voice rising until it carried faintly through the glass. "This is my community. I set the standards." Then, the unthinkable handcuffs glinted in the twilight as an officer secured her wrists. Her face flushed a furious pink as they escorted her to the cruiser. Later, the officer returned to Ethan's house. "She's being charged with grand larceny. Anything over $500 is a felony here. She swore she was disposing of it for safety, but we found the food in her fridge, wine on her counter, still corked. She didn't see this coming." He chuckled. "Guess she thought HOA rules trumped the law." Word spread like wildfire. The next night, the community center overflowed for an emergency HOA meeting. Neighbors packed the folding chairs, their whispers buzzing like static. Ethan arrived late, slipping into the back as tales of Margaret's tyranny spilled forth. A woman in a red scarf recounted how Margaret had banned her son's lemonade stand for unsanctioned commerce. An older man grumbled about the time she demanded he remove his vintage wind chimes because they disrupted the soundscape. When Ethan played his footage, the room hushed, eyes wide as Margaret's petty thefts unspooled on a projector screen. The board acted fast. Margaret was ousted unanimously, replaced by Tom Riley, a soft-spoken retiree who promised transparency. "We're auditing the HOA books," Tom announced. 12 years under her watch, God knows what we'll find." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Margaret, released on bail, faced a felony charge that could mean prison time and the loss of her real estate license, a career she'd bragged about at every meeting. 3 days later, Ethan was debugging code when his doorbell rang. He opened it to find Margaret, a shadow of her former self. Her hair hung limp, her designer coat wrinkled, her eyes red-rimmed. She clutched an envelope, thrusting it at him. "My lawyer says I need to pay restitution," she muttered. "That's $1, $200 covers everything, with interest." He took it, meeting her gaze. "Was it worth it, Margaret? All that power tripping over takeout?" Her mask slipped, anger flashing through her exhaustion. "You don't get it. I built this place, kept it perfect. And now? My hearing's tomorrow. A felony could ruin Mimi license my life." Her voice broke, tears spilling. "Over a damn steak." "I didn't want this," Ethan said, and he meant it. "I just wanted my dinner." She opened her mouth, but his phone chimed a delivery alert. "Sorry," he said, glancing at the screen. "My tacos are here. Looks like they'll actually make it this time." He shut the door gently, leaving her on the porch, a fallen queen in a kingdom she'd ruled too long. As he unpacked his meal-warm tortillas, spicy carnitas, a side of guacamole, felt no triumph, only relief. Willow Creek wouldn't be the same without Margaret's iron grip, but maybe, just maybe, it'd be better. He took a bite, savoring the peace that came with it. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.